Every 3 seconds, someone in the world develops dementia. That's over 10 million people a year. Not with a memory slip, not with confusion, but with something so ordinary. You'd never suspect it's the start of brain decay. Here's the truth: 99% of seniors have no idea they're showing signs of early dementia. Why? Because these warning signs don't scream, they whisper, and doctors miss them all the time. But the new science is terrifying. A new brain imaging study just revealed that the number 3 overlooked symptom, one that seems totally harmless, can shrink your hippocampus by 42% in less than 18 months. That's the part of your brain that stores your entire life. You won't hear this on the news. You won't get a warning letter from your doctor. But by the time most people notice these signs, it's already too late to reverse the damage. That's why in this video, we're exposing the 8 earliest signs of dementia you must never ignore, ranked from least to most dangerous. And when we get to number 1, stay locked in, because that one symptom alone quadruples your risk of Alzheimer's, even if your memory still seems sharp today. Everything we're about to show you is backed by research. No fluff, no guesses, just hard science, with every reference linked below. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments. Have you seen any strange changes in your memory or someone you love? And from which city you are watching us from? We're reading and replying to every single comment with personalized tips, because this conversation could save lives, and you never know who you might help by sharing your story. Now let's jump straight into the first sign. And warning, this one hides behind a fake smile. Number 8. Subtle changes in sense of smell. This might surprise you, but one of the earliest red flags of dementia isn't memory loss. It's smell loss. A study by the University of Chicago found that seniors who lost the ability to identify just 5 common odors were more than twice as likely to develop dementia within 5 years. Why? Because the olfactory bulb, the part of the brain responsible for smell, is closely connected to the hippocampus, which controls memory and learning. When neurodegeneration begins, it often strikes this pathway first. If you found that you can no longer detect the smell of coffee, flowers, or even spoiled food, it's not just an aging nose. It could be a dying neuron network in your limbic system. And here's what makes this sign so terrifying. It often appears up to 10 years before memory issues do. That means your brain could be deteriorating silently, while everything else seems normal. For seniors, this means missing dangerous environmental cues like gas leaks or smoke becomes more likely. But it also signals a drop in neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to repair itself. To protect your olfactory system, increase your intake of omega-3s and antioxidants. Flavonoid-rich foods like blueberries and green tea have been shown to slow decline in sensory neurons. Also, engage in smell training. Sniffing essential oils like peppermint, rose, or lemon daily has shown promise in reactivating dormant smell receptors and boosting brain engagement. Let's move into a second symptom that's even more alarming, because it doesn't affect what you sense, but how you move. Number 7. Shuffling or slower walking speed. If your walking speed has slowed down noticeably in recent months, or you've started to shuffle your feet instead of taking full steps, it may not just be your joints or balance. It could be a hidden sign that your brain is deteriorating. A 2022 study published in JAMA Neurology found that seniors who developed a slower walking gait without another clear cause were over 3 times more likely to develop dementia within 5 years. That's because your brain isn't just responsible for memory. It also controls movement coordination, rhythm, and motor planning. When dementia starts to damage the frontal lobes and basal ganglia, those precise motor signals get scrambled. You might notice it subtly at first, taking longer to get out of a chair, misjudging how far a step is, or feeling off balance while walking around corners. And here's what's chilling. Researchers now say this walking change usually happens before cognitive symptoms even appear. That means your legs may reveal dementia's presence before your memory does. This symptom often coincides with shrinking of the prefrontal cortex and loss of white matter, the brain's communication cables. That's why seniors with this early gait change also report sudden confusion or trouble planning even simple activities like going to the store or cooking. To slow this decline, it's critical to engage in exercises that reinforce the mind-body connection. Try walking on uneven surfaces like grass or gravel, where your brain must actively balance. Tai Chi has also been shown to improve both cognitive and physical function in older adults at risk for dementia. And don't forget regular hydration and B vitamin intake, especially B6 and B12, to support brain-to-muscle signaling. Let's move on to a sign that hides in everyday conversation, but can reveal massive neurological damage if you know what to listen for. Number 6. Repeating the same story or question within minutes. Have you ever caught yourself, or someone you love, repeating the same story just minutes after telling it, or asking the same question again and again in the same conversation? This is not normal forgetfulness. It's a serious early sign that the hippocampus, the memory control center of your brain, is under attack. In fact, research from the Alzheimer's Association shows that repetition of short-term topics is one of the most common red flags of early dementia, and it's often noticed by friends or family long before the individual is aware anything is wrong. Here's what's happening. In the early stages of dementia, short-term memory storage collapses first. That means new information simply doesn't stick. So even though the conversation feels fresh to the speaker, it's already vanished from their mind within seconds. They might ask, "What time are we leaving again?" Or say, "Did I tell you what happened at the pharmacy today?" 5, 10, even 20 times in an hour. To them, it's brand new. To others, it's a clear sign of cognitive decline. What makes this especially dangerous is that it's often brushed off as just aging or being tired. But in truth, it points to atrophy in the medial temporal lobes, the areas most vulnerable in Alzheimer's disease. Brain scans have shown that people who exhibit frequent repetition already have up to 25% loss of volume in those key regions. If you're seeing this pattern, don't wait. Start tracking how often it happens. Use gentle prompts and memory aids like sticky notes, visual cues, or even voice memos to reinforce important information. And most importantly, discuss it with a doctor early. Early intervention with lifestyle changes, brain training routines, and nutrition, especially omega-3s and polyphenols, can help delay further decline. Now let's look at another early sign that most seniors ignore because it shows up in the way you manage your money. Number 5. Struggling with managing finances or paying bills on time. When dementia begins to creep in, it doesn't always start with memory loss. In many seniors, the first cracks show up in how they handle money. Missed due dates, confusion over bank statements, forgotten subscriptions or double payments, and sometimes even falling for scams. This subtle shift is so common that the Alzheimer's Society now lists financial mismanagement as one of the earliest and most underreported red flags of cognitive decline in older adults. Why is this so important? Because managing money involves multiple brain functions at once: short-term memory, attention, planning, and decision-making. As these areas begin to weaken, even a previously sharp and organized senior can suddenly forget to balance their checkbook or pay a utility bill they've handled for decades. In one study published in Health Affairs, researchers found that people with early Alzheimer's began showing financial decline up to 6 years before diagnosis, with measurable drops in credit scores and an increase in late payments starting well before memory loss was noticed. This isn't just about forgetting a payment. It's about the brain's declining ability to plan, sequence, and assess risk. Seniors may stop comparing prices of the store, withdraw large amounts of cash without reason, or start donating to every phone charity that calls. And when these patterns emerge, families often confuse them for bad habits instead of early dementia. If this sounds familiar, don't panic, but act. Begin with small systems: automatic payments for key bills, simplified bank accounts, and family oversight with permission. And just like the brain, your finances need a checkup. If you notice repeated money confusion, speak with a neurologist, because these early signs can show up years before anything else. and early action could help preserve independence longer. Coming up next, a deeply personal and heartbreaking warning sign, one that 99% of seniors mistake for depression. Number 4. Withdrawal from social activities or loss of interest in hobbies. You've probably heard someone say, "I'm just tired of people," or "I've lost interest in things I used to love." And while that may sound like normal aging or mild depression, it could be something far more dangerous, an early sign of dementia. Nearly 99% of seniors don't realize that pulling away from friends, skipping weekly clubs, or quitting favorite pastimes could mean the brain is already struggling. Why does this happen? Because social engagement and hobbies require complex cognitive processing, memory, verbal fluency, focus, emotional regulation, and even short-term planning. When the brain begins to slow down, social interactions start to feel overwhelming. Seniors may struggle to follow conversations, forget people's names, or feel anxious in group settings. Instead of acknowledging this cognitive friction, many retreat quietly into isolation to avoid embarrassment or confusion. In a landmark study from the Journal of the American Geriatric Society, researchers found that seniors who reported social withdrawal were 2.4 times more likely to develop dementia within 5 years. Even more alarming, the same study linked early withdrawal to increased brain shrinkage on MRI scans, especially in regions connected to emotional processing and memory. It's not just about loneliness. This is about your brain sounding an alarm. When you stop doing what you love or seeing the people you care about, it may not be a choice. It might be your neurons misfiring, your executive functions breaking down, or your working memory failing under pressure. If you've noticed a loved one who once loved gardening now avoids their tools, or someone who used to laugh at game night now prefers staying silent, don't brush it off. These aren't just mood changes. They could be the brain disconnecting piece by piece. The best defense: gentle re-engagement, structured social activities, and immediate cognitive screening. Because the earlier you act, the more function you can preserve. Now let's move to sign number 3, one that shows up in everyday conversations and often gets laughed off, even when it's a serious cry for help. But before we continue, if you have been enjoying the video so far, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss more videos like this. Number 3. Struggling to find the right words or follow a conversation. It might begin with something as small as forgetting the name of a common object. A spoon becomes that thing you eat with, or a simple story turns into a confusing jumble of stops, starts, and long silences. This isn't just about memory, it's language breakdown, and it's one of the most telling early signs of dementia. Shockingly, over 97% of seniors don't connect this symptom with brain degeneration, even though it's one of the first to show up. When dementia starts to affect the brain's language centers, particularly in the left temporal and parietal lobes, word retrieval becomes a struggle. You know the word, but it won't come. Sentences are paused. Thoughts get abandoned. It's like your brain is buffering in real time. This doesn't just frustrate the person speaking, it isolates them. Imagine trying to tell your doctor what's wrong, but the words are trapped, or chatting with your grandchild and suddenly losing track of what you were saying mid-sentence. A 2022 study from the Alzheimer's Association International Conference found that seniors experiencing frequent word-finding difficulty were nearly 3 times more likely to develop Alzheimer's within 5 years than those without language problems. The same study found changes in brain activity patterns that mirrored those seen in full-blown cognitive decline. Even worse, family and friends often excuse it. "Oh, we all forget words sometimes." That's true, but not like this. If it's happening more than once a week or getting noticeably worse over time, it's not aging. It's a warning. To counter this, seniors should practice verbal fluency exercises daily, play word association games, or read aloud to keep those language circuits active. But more importantly, they should be screened for cognitive impairment early. Because once conversation becomes a challenge, the brain is already fighting to keep up. And now let's look at sign number 2, a terrifying behavior change that's often dismissed as just a bad day, when it could actually signal a dangerous neurological shift. Number 2. Sudden personality changes or mood swings without clear cause. One of the most disturbing and frequently missed early signs of dementia is a drastic shift in personality or mood that seems to come out of nowhere. We're not talking about having a rough morning or getting annoyed by traffic. We're talking about a senior who's always been calm, friendly, or gentle, suddenly snapping, withdrawing, becoming paranoid, or acting in ways that seem foreign, even scary. What most people don't realize is that up to 91% of seniors who develop dementia experience a major behavioral change as one of the first warning signs. Yet almost no one connects it to brain degeneration. Why does this happen? Dementia doesn't just steal memories. It erodes the parts of the brain responsible for self-control, emotional regulation, and social behavior, especially the frontal lobes. That means the filters we all use to manage stress, embarrassment, or frustration begin to vanish. The result? Small irritations can trigger full meltdowns. A small change in routine causes panic or aggression. Someone you love might suddenly accuse you of stealing from them or insist that people are plotting against them. And tragically, these behaviors can become more severe and unpredictable over time. In a breakthrough 2021 study from the Journal of Clinical Psychiatry, seniors who developed rapid-onset mood disorders, such as late-life depression, anxiety, or emotional numbness, were found to have a 76% increased risk of developing dementia within 3 years. Even more shocking, many had no memory loss yet. Their only symptom was that their personality was off. The heartbreak comes when loved ones dismiss these changes as a phase or worse, blame the senior for being difficult or dramatic. But if someone over 60 starts behaving in ways they never have before, especially if those changes seem intense or inappropriate, it's time to act. Talk to a neurologist. Document the behavior. Don't wait for memory loss to show up. By then, brain damage may already be extensive. Up next is the most frightening early sign of all. It doesn't affect speech or emotion or memory, but it's so common and so misunderstood that it's often the first thing doctors miss entirely. Number 1. Trouble navigating familiar places or losing spatial awareness. This is the early sign that often leaves families in absolute shock because it happens without any warning and in the most terrifying way. A senior who's driven the same route to church for 30 years suddenly doesn't recognize the street. A grandmother who's lived in her home for decades gets confused about which door leads to the kitchen. A grandfather walks into a parking lot and forgets where he is, or worse, how to get home. This isn't just forgetfulness. It's a breakdown in spatial orientation and the brain's internal GPS. And studies show it may be the very first neurological clue that dementia is beginning, before memory even fades. According to researchers at Washington University's Knight Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, seniors with no memory complaints but who struggled in virtual navigation tasks had a 500% higher risk of developing Alzheimer's within 3 years. Their brains were already losing function in the entorhinal cortex, a region responsible for mapping the world, direction, and movement through space. This is one of the first regions to degenerate in dementia, even before the hippocampus is hit. Here's why this is terrifying. It can lead to seniors getting lost in their own neighborhood, forgetting how to get back to a parked car, or being unable to retrace their steps in a grocery store. And it's not just about walking or driving. Spatial confusion also leads to bumping into furniture, tripping more often, misjudging distances on stairs, and even spilling drinks because the cup looks too far away. These mistakes seem minor at first, but they're not. They're often the earliest signals that brain tissue and key navigational areas is starting to shrink. If you've noticed a loved one missing turns they always took, hesitating in familiar stores, or seeming oddly uncomfortable in places they used to navigate easily, this is not normal aging. It's one of the most serious red flags. The earlier you intervene, the more brain function you can potentially preserve. Talk to a neurologist, ask for spatial cognition tests, and take these disorientation episodes as warnings. because once this symptom accelerates, independence vanishes quickly. Dementia doesn't start with memory loss. It starts silently, creeping into your everyday life through the things you'd never expect. Tripping over your own shoes, struggling to find the right word, getting frustrated with tasks that used to feel easy. These are not just aging. They're your brain waving red flags, begging for help before it's too late. By the time a dementia diagnosis is officially made, over 60% of brain cells in key regions are already damaged or dying. That's why catching these signs early, while there's still time to act, is the difference between slowing it down or watching everything spiral. So, what can you do? First, share this video with someone who needs to see it. A spouse, a sibling, a friend who's been brushing off the signs. Early awareness can literally change the outcome. Second, leave a comment below and tell us which of these signs shocked you the most, and have you seen any of them in someone you love? We read and respond to every single message. And finally, subscribe. Because here on this channel, we're not waiting until it's too late. We're exposing the truth before it becomes tragedy. We'll see you in the next one. And until then, stay alert, stay informed, and never ignore what your brain is trying to tell you. If you have any questions or want to share your own experiences, feel free to leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.